This week on The Grit Crusade, what would you say if I told you there are actually 9 domains to an entire human? That's right. So yes, you're looking at someone to do a job or to work somewhere, but there is so much more to all of us. And don't we all want to be seen for more than just the work we do? Hey everyone, welcome to the Grit Crusade podcast. I am your host, Brooke, and I'm so excited you decided to join me here today. It's just me and you, and I'm talking about a new topic that I'm so passionate about as I am fresh off a training in Franklin, Tennessee called Life Focus. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the training that I attended and about life planning, and mostly though, I'm going to be talking to you about what it means to employ or work with a whole person. And you're not just hiring someone to do a job in our companies any longer. It's so much more than that because we are such complex beings and there's so much more to us than just the work we do. So if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, be sure and follow the show and share it with your friends as well as our YouTube listeners, because this podcast is not about numbers. It's not about having the most listeners. It's about spreading our message, and so it makes a difference in other people's lives. And that is why we are here today. So today it's just me and you, but in the training I just went to in Tennessee. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see this nice, pretty box. So this is actually like a prototype. I was in a beta test group with the Full Focus company. If you are listening online, we will put a link in the show notes, but it'll be a hot link, like fresh off the press, because this product will not be launching until March of 24. So we are recording right now in December of 23. March of 24 is the projected launch date. So hopefully they will have their links live and we'll be able to share it with you. But this product, Life Focus, this is not a sponsored podcast. This is just me loving the Full Focus company. And all of the really nice cards inside the box, and they're so pretty and great quality, had led me through a training recently and reminded me of the importance of looking at ourselves and our staff as a whole person. So imagine this for me. Imagine you are going to interview for a job, or maybe you're the interviewer at a job, right? And someone comes in and you start talking to them about their skills, their skill set. Can you use Canva? Can you use Microsoft Teams? Are you able to type so many words a minute? I mean, I'm not sure anyone asks that anymore, but maybe like in the 1980s they did, right? But you're looking at the skills of this person and you hire them for the job or not based off of their qualifications. What would you say if I told you there are actually 9 domains to an entire human? That's right. So yes, you're looking at someone to do a job or to work somewhere, but there is so much more to all of us. And don't we all want to be seen for more than just the work we do? So in the Full Focus training, Life Focus, one of the things we talked about was what are those 9 domains? And so here they are. The 9 domains of all of us, all of our lives are these: work, establish that one; family; spiritual; mind; body; hobbies; money; and community. So that's right. When you're sitting in front of someone about to hire them, as leaders, this is so important. We are not just hiring a being that is just going to be working for you, and that's the only thing you're looking at is their work. They are a whole entire person, and they have to be treated and loved and led with that in mind. And so I just think it's so important for us to know that things are different now. We're in 2024. Okay. We all survived the pandemic together. We all went through this like, oh no, everyone's at home. Oh no, everyone's back out. And it's finding that balance in the middle and knowing that people are just more than workers. Human resources is no longer enough. Like if you think about that term in its own self, human and resources. So these are the people that work at your company. My friend David Roberts, who I just did a co-host mini series with that launched at the end of 23, we talk about the 2 biggest problems in business are people and cash flow, okay? And it's because I'm a firm believer, is that for too long, we have been looking at people as just that, a resource. And yes, the bottom line, when you're looking at profit margins and you're looking at who's making money and how you can make more money doing this or that, yeah, maybe it does come to just a resource. But to me and to other leaders that really, truly care about these humans, they're looking at the big picture. Not just what did your numbers look like last week, but how's your mom that you're a caregiver for? Or how did your disc golf tournament turn out on Saturday? or what's going on with your kids' school play for Christmas. Those things matter and they contribute so much into the overall performance and overall employee experience that your staff and team are having with your companies. So there is a Harvard Business article that was released in 2002, y'all, 22 years ago, that said, hey, companies, it's coming. The way we're treating people like a commodity, like they're just another tool, is not going to work. You can't just keep pushing people like they're robots. In 2002, they were already saying that. And I am here to tell you, we are here. We are here. And there is no amount of money that you can pay someone for, here's the key phrase, long-term satisfaction if they don't believe in what you're doing and they don't believe in the mission, right? So with the Full Focus product, again, not sponsored. I'm just telling you how much I love this Life Focus product. So it comes with cards for each of the domains. And so I'm holding up for our YouTube viewers can see me, but our online listeners, you'll be able to see it in the link, like the love cards. And then there's a whole stack of value cards. And so what this does is, not only am I a firm believer in life planning and that you need to have a life plan. And so you either need to get this product or read Michael Hyatt's book, Living Forward, that he wrote with Daniel Harkavy. They are tremendous tools into looking at your own life in a big perspective. And maybe that's a podcast topic. Maybe I need to add that on our podcast topic list. But it's also important for you to realize that your staff have this entire life focus, right? And so when I stopped interviewing people and just looking at them as a daycare teacher or a tumbling coach or a front desk worker, and started looking at our team as entire humans who have wants, who have needs, but you know what? Who also believe in what we're doing. It changed the culture and it changed the way we do things. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how you can do that in your own businesses and on your own teams after we do my favorite segment on the podcast, which is Trivia in the Trenches. So if you're new, I always ask a question that has nothing to do with our topic, and I try to stump you, the listener, or my guest if we have a guest. So today it's just me and you, so I get to stump you. Here we go. How many arms does a squid have? Dun, 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 dun. 10. Like, I think I would have guessed 8 or 10. Like, is it an octopus that has 8 maybe? I don't know. But a squid has 10 arms, okay? And here's some other fun facts about squids, which I did know this, that they are highly intelligent beings. They can rapidly change their skin color using special pigment-filled cells called chromatophores to hide from danger, warn attackers. And then this last one, I think, is probably the coolest, like, of any animal ever. They can use the patterns on their skin as a secret code that allows them to communicate with other squid and be invisible to predators. What? Like, I want a secret code. Like, I always said, if there was like one skill I could get from Harry Potter, which I'm a Harry Potter lover, it would be the invisibility cloak. Because I think it would be super cool to be invisible and like be able to experience things and like people not know you were there. So that's kind of like squid. They can just blend in with their environment. So there's your fun trivia in the trenches for today. All right, back to our topic, talking about employing the whole human here. And then it's more than just human resources. If you Google this, like, what do employees want, right? Forbes.com released an article in March of 23, and they said it was this. This is not exactly what I agree with, but I'm going to show you the statistics too. Employees today are wanting flexibility, and it said permanent flexibility. That's what the article said, okay? Commitment to health and well-being, and purpose. And I'm going to tell you, they 100% have the second two right. Now, I'm in the South, and I feel like as a podcaster or anyone with a voice, you can only speak from your own experience and like your place of experience, right? But in the South, like, there has been some pushback of like the return to office mandates and those things, but people are still working on site. Like, it's not like everyone's working from home all the time now. So I don't know if permanent flexibility, I feel like that might have been like a little biased from where they are, writing the article from. But what I do have to say about flexibility that I have seen with my team that's important is they love to have the flexibility to be able to do life when they need to. It's not like every day. Like, I don't want 100% freedom every single day. But like, if my kid has a play, I want to be there. if I need to go to a doctor's appointment, now mind you, I'm not saying like 100 doctor's appointments, but like I need to go get my annual physical. Like go, make that happen. Figure out how you can make that work within your organization and your industry. I think that kind of flexibility is really important because it shows that you value them as humans and doing like regular, normal things. Like I know as a public school educator, it was very hard to be out of the classroom because we had to have a substitute to be there with the children. And so those kind of situations and those industries are harder, especially when you're caring for children or people that have medical needs. There has to be someone there all the time if you're in the healthcare industry. So I'm not saying that it's easy, but is it worth it? Yes. So I do agree with that kind of flexibility. But here are my tips. So if you're someone who is looking for a job, okay, then you feel free to disagree with me, right? You can always drop it in the comments on YouTube or send me an email at chat@brookeplack.com. But if you're an employer, this is the things I have noticed over the last 10 years of leading companies in a nonprofit organization. These are the cultural changes and the shifts that we have made that made the biggest difference so that it's no longer just that term of human resources and that we're looking at the entire human and letting them know that they are more than just another number to us. So first, and this is like the first step of AA or like the 12 steps or everything, but is to acknowledge that what we collectively, I'm doing air quotes with my hands, have been doing is no longer working. So we have been, or maybe in the past were doing, is not working. This generation of the workforce is not into being a number, okay? And this workforce is also extremely limited. So it helps us to be way more competitive employers if we are able to look at the whole human. So I'm going to give you a statistic, and this is for Arkansas specific. So for our listeners that are out of state and out of country, I would love to hear how this statistic is mirrored in your area. So, but for Arkansas, where my businesses are located, we had in October of 23, so it's a few months prior to this podcast being recorded, about 5 months before you'll hear it. So in October of 23, we had one of the lowest unemployment rates that we've had in Arkansas, 3.3%. But only 58% of our workforce was actually in the workforce. So the rest are either on government benefits or they've retired, right? So even though we have 90,000 open jobs, if everybody in that 3.3% took a position, we would still have like 50,000 open jobs in Arkansas. So we're in a workforce desert. So that is why this is important. That is why this is critical. Like it's more important than ever for us to take what we know and make our organizations and our cultures better because it makes us competitive against other companies who may not be doing the same thing and valuing humans the way they should be valued. So first step always is acknowledge this is where we're at and not to feel, shameful or guilty about it because I think it's just giving ourselves a little compassion and knowing sometimes we just don't know the things that we don't know. But now you know. You're listening to this podcast. It was sent to you for a reason, or you saw it pop up on your feed for a reason, and this is important, and now you know so you can do better. That's what Maya Angelou says. Know better, do better, okay? So once you've acknowledged that this isn't working, commit to making, and underline this in your brain, small incremental changes. So many times we look at the mountains that we want to move and we are paralyzed and we don't do anything. Don't look at it as you have to change every single thing right now. Make small incremental changes at a time. One of the things, for example, that we do in our company is called a MAC program. So we noticed that our leaders didn't have good laptop computers. Most of them were operating on mobile devices. But as they stepped into leadership roles, they really needed a keyboard to type with, whether it was like on a tablet or like an actual laptop or desktop. But that was a big expense for them, especially our kids that are coming out of college or went high school straight into the workforce. And so we looked at a way where we could own or finance these tablets or computers for our team. And now they have really great computers and then they pay it back over 12 months as a payroll deduction. Okay. Cost us very little upfront. We do invest in part of that program for them and pay a little bit of the upfront cost. But then now they have a tool that they can take with them, even if they don't work for us after that. And we've invested in them as well. So just looking for small ways to really help your staff be seen, be heard, be equipped. Do you have people at your organization that practice religions outside of mainstream religions? Maybe they would really like to be able to take off for those holidays, but that's never been available. It's not actually costing you anything, but just by listing that in your employee benefits, you're giving them a voice. You're letting them be seen or heard. Maybe there's a Jewish holiday or an Eastern Orthodox holiday or a Muslim holiday that they would love the opportunity to take off for with notice. They're going to give you notice. I'm not saying they're telling you tomorrow, but like you're seeing them. I see you. I know you're there and you matter to us. So there are lots of things you can do in small ways with employee benefits that you can make small incremental changes over time. Do you have paternity leave? Right? This is a generation of co-parenting. I'm not saying everybody all the time, but men want to be involved too. Do you let them take off? Do you let women take off? Do you let men take off? Are you letting your nursing moms have ample time to nurse or pump? They can work outside of normal hours. It's okay for a little bit, I promise. If they're having to take off, you don't even have to pay them for those breaks. Pay them if you can. That's what I recommend. But there's so many things that you can do. My mother-in-law's company, she works for US Able. They get a paid day off to volunteer in the community because volunteerism creates culture, community, stewardship. And so thinking of those small incremental ways that you can invest back in your people and letting them know that they are seen and they're heard is so huge. Okay. So small incremental changes. The other way is you can highlight the other domains in people's lives. Okay. Let me show you how this shows up. So let's say you have somebody that's on a competitive kickball team or even recreational, right? And their team wins the tournament. Do you do a shout out to them on your social media, on the company's social media, maybe in your internal communication, text group or group me or whatever, that you're shouting out that they did something great? You're recognizing them. It costs you nothing and they're being seen and they're being heard. And then you're encouraging all of your other team members to also have hobbies and share those with you. Because you know what? People that have hobbies are happier. People that are happier work harder and they show up more and they're less sick and they're not calling in. And all of these things tie together when you start looking at the whole human. Are you shouting out to the family that just made their first successful adoption? Are you shouting out to people who have created some community in your organization? We have a young staff member leading a gift exchange. It was her idea. She's coordinating it. I don't know anything about it. And it's great. And I'm so proud of her. And whether you do that publicly acknowledging them or privately, may depend on the person. Everything doesn't have to be public. But when you start highlighting things that aren't just work, it matters. It matters to people. It even matters to the people that you're not shouting out because they see that you're seeing their coworkers as whole people, as whole humans. And that matters. It truly does. And this is probably one of the most beneficial things that has changed about me in my spiritual journey. Okay. And you're like, this is not a spiritual podcast. I know we're talking about the whole human. And one of the 9 domains is spiritual. That doesn't mean that you have to be a Christian. That doesn't mean that you have to have the same religion as me to acknowledge that you have a spirit that lives within you and that we are spiritually connected in this universe. So somewhere along the way, I'd probably say if I'm reflecting back would be when I was at my retreat in Costa Rica in October of 22. I began to see every person as someone's child. It's like I met a man at the cocktail party when I was in Franklin, the training I was telling you about with the life focus training. He was in his 60s and was telling me about how he had concluded his employment as a superintendent after 30 years. He wasn't ready to retire, moved on to work with this consulting firm. As I'm sitting there listening to him, I'm seeing him as a 6-year-old boy with dreams. He's in his 60s, but his human body is simply carrying a soul around inside of it. And that soul emanates way past his physical being. That's where vibes, that's where energy come from. That's the auras you hear people talk about. And he's really just a 6-year-old boy with dreams in an older body. And so when you can start seeing every person that you meet, every person that you interview, and more importantly, every person you have conflict with, they were once just a little 6-year-old with dreams. They're somebody's child, somebody's mother, somebody's sister, aunt, friend, that we are all so much more similar than we are dissimilar. But as we can bring that into the workplace and for people to have a shared purpose and a shared mission in what they're doing, that's what's worth showing up for. It's not worth showing up just because you answer the phones. No, you answer the phones because you're connecting people to resources they need for their children to become better at the end of the day and to grow up as happy, healthy humans. That's what that person answering the phone does. They're not just there to say, hello, how may I help you? But if you can take your vision and make small changes, you are seeing people as a whole human and not just one dimension or one domain, and bring that into the workplace, it will create a whole movement of people working for a mission that you could never motivate them to. What you're doing is you're inspiring the next generation of the workforce in your own walls. And just like Zig Ziglar says, people say motivation doesn't last. Well, neither does showering, right? So you always need more motivation, but that inspiration, when you have an inspired workforce to run full speed ahead at your mission, that's what makes all the difference. Until next time. Thanks for listening to the Grit Crusade. I'm Brooke Plack. Join me again next week on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube. This podcast is produced by ClintonCreative.com.